All right, let's get it. Contrary to popular belief, white fragility is well and kicking. Now, today I'll be discussing the controversy. No, no, scratch that because it's not a controversy. I'll be discussing all of the recent conversations about Halle Bailey being cast as Ariel in the live action portrayal of The Little Mermaid. Now, first, let me just state the obvious. Mermaids are not real. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Mermaids are not real. It is a fictional character. So it's pretty silly to assign her a race or ethnicity. But it's even crazier that people are so upset that The Little Mermaid has been cast as a black girl, woman, whatever you want to call her. And it's just like I'm willing to bet that the majority of the gripes are coming from white men. I'm willing to bet that little girls are not making all of this fuss and ruckus about the casting of The Little Mermaid. I'm pretty sure they don't care. There may be some moms who may be a little bit upset, but I'm just willing to bet that the majority of the gripes are coming from white men. And I have to say, ask yourself one question. If you are one of those people who are griping about it, ask yourself this question. Why are you so emotionally invested in a story, a children's story, that was written for little girls? Ask yourself that. Why do you care? As a white man, why do you care about a story that was written for little girls? I mean, when you look at it on a bigger scale, it's all pretty silly, right? And if you're Holly, what are you supposed to do? Turn down the check? I mean, just think about that. What is she supposed to say? No, I don't want this money because the Little Mermaid wasn't originally black. I mean, let's just be fair. She lives in the ocean. She wouldn't be black. She wouldn't be white. She wouldn't be anything, right? I mean, like, her skin probably wouldn't have any pigment at all. But yeah, what is she supposed to do? Turn down the money? Would you turn down the check? I'm going to circle back around to that. So, this isn't the first time that these internet trolls, because that's what they are, right? Internet trolls, and some of them may even be bots. But this isn't the first time that there's been a big brouhaha about the casting of black characters in fictional roles. I know a lot of you are familiar with John Boyega being cast as the first black stormtrooper in the Star Wars universe, and they totally pulled the fast one on us. They had us thinking he was going to be the Jedi of the story, and shame on Disney for pulling the chair away from us, but that's a whole nother story for another time. But remember how there was just so much backlash about John Boyega holding the lightsaber, and they couldn't believe that this black guy was a stormtrooper. And like I said, this is a fictional universe. You have aliens, all type of creatures who could be Jedi, but not the black guy. It's like anyone except the black guy gets to be a Jedi, right? I mean, that was kind of like the whole underlying tone of what they were saying, right? And in my opinion, I think Kathleen Kennedy and those guys kind of caved to all of that backlash by not letting then John Boyega be the Jedi of the story. I really do think that they caved, and it's that it's that spinelessness that gives power to these trolls, to these idiots who make such a fuss about the casting of people of color, black characters, because it didn't just happen to John Boyega. It also happened to Kelly Marie Tran also. But yeah, when they meaning Disney, when they cave, when they actually start to change their story because they don't want the backlash, it gives these idiots power. The right thing to do is to ignore them or to cast more people of color. Because listen, I understand in the end it's about money, but they're not the only ones buying tickets. Okay, recognize that. They're not the only ones with money. So you'll get your money regardless of who's starring in these shows if the story's good. You guys may not follow this like I do. Like I said previously in other videos, that I am a nerd. I do follow this sci-fi stuff pretty closely, especially Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But Moses Ingram was cast as Reva in the Kenobi series, and that was just a couple months ago. And like, she was receiving death threats and all kind of foolish, like, just harassment, to the point where she had to address it on Twitter about how these people were just stalking her, harassing her. And it's foolish, right? Because again, these are all fictional characters. Now, her character Reva, Darth Vader's apprentice, is loosely based on the character Revan from the video games. And Revan is supposed to be a white guy. But who cares? Again, these are fictional characters, so it doesn't matter if you change their gender or their race, because it's not an actual portrayal of anyone. It's all made up, so to change it is no big deal. But again, these trolls, and like I said previously, maybe some bots, harassed this young lady over something that is so silly. And like I said, what is she supposed to do? Turn down the money? She's supposed to turn down the paycheck? Yeah, right. Which one of you would do that? So here's one that some of you hardcore Star Wars fans, or so-called hardcore Star Wars fans, probably don't know. Han Solo was originally going to be black. Glenn Turman, the great Glenn Turman, was going to be cast as Han Solo. And if you don't believe me, you can go and read this article. And there's actually multiple articles about this, that Han Solo was going to be Glenn Turman. And just like they changed up the story for Finn, they were scared that the movie would not make its money. They were scared that an interracial romance at that time, because remember, this is 1977, that an interracial romance would be too controversial, and they ultimately gave the role to Harrison Ford. Now, I understand there is a business element to all of this, but shame on you, George Lucas. You're married to a black woman. Shame on you. Okay? I just want you to know that I think that that's a pitiful and poor excuse. If that's how you wrote the story, if that was your original vision, you should have went with it. But again, it's a $1 billion franchise, so who am I to say it was the wrong decision, right? So I'm old enough to remember, like, when Samuel L. Jackson was first cast as Nick Fury, how much the internet was on fire talking about Nick Fury is white, blah 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 blah. See, there's a theme here. You guys see it? Every time there's a black character being cast in a prominent role, especially in science fiction, there is always a ton of backlash from these idiots who cry about fictional characters. And Samuel L. Jackson knocked this role out of the park. I mean, literally knocked it out of the park. Can you picture anyone else being Nick Fury at this time? I can't. I mean, he did an excellent job. And in the end, that's what it should be about. The best actor should get the role, regardless. Because again, these are fictional characters. They didn't exist. So it kind of does not matter what race, creed, color they really are, because they never existed to begin with. Now let's flip the script. Remember when Angelina Jolie played Marianne Pearl in A Mighty Heart? I don't remember Angelina getting death threats. I don't remember her being stalked. There wasn't much backlash. There may have been a little chatter, but there wasn't much backlash about it. This is an actual person. This is clearly a woman of color. Do you see the behavioral differences? No one was talking about banning this movie or signing petitions to try and get it pulled, and we're going to boycott all of this silly nonsense. No one was doing any of that. How about Keanu Reeves in the 47 Ronin? This is a Japanese story. It's a Japanese story starring Keanu Reeves. Did Keanu get any death threats? Was he being stalked? Was there any backlash? Was anyone talking about boycotting? Huh? I don't think the Asian community behaved the way that a certain other group behaved about the casting of Keanu Reeves, right? Do you see the difference? Do I need to present more evidence? Sure, of course. Why not? Did anyone harass Matt Damon being cast in the Great Wall? Which, if you complete that, it's the Great Wall of China. That's what the movie is about, the Great Wall of China. The Chinese people talk about boycotting Matt Damon and harassing him. No, no, because no one behaves like a certain group of people. What about Tom Cruise? That's the Last Samurai. Again, was he being stalked? Did he receive any backlash? Was anyone talking about boycotting The Last Samurai? What about Daniel Day-Lewis as the Last Mohican? I mean, all of these guys are starring in stories that should not be featuring white people. And yet here we are, right? Did the indigenous community boycott Daniel Day-Lewis or The Last Mohican? Was there backlash? No. And don't get me wrong, let me just state for the record, The Last Samurai, great movie. The Last Mohican, great movie. Great Wall, not so much. But the point is, you have white people being the central figure in stories that are not about white people. But yet you have some who want to gripe and moan and make a big deal about the few times that people of color are cast as the protagonists in a story that's not about black people or whatever ethnicity. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is Robert Downey Jr. portraying a black man in Tropic Thunder. People seem to forget about that. Yes, your beloved Iron Man. Did he receive any backlash? Boycotts? Death threats? Not from the black community, he didn't. Now, don't get me wrong. This was also the running joke of the movie, right? Them, man, I messed that all the way up. But anyway, the running joke of the movie was they kept telling him that he wasn't black. But still, just the fact that he played this role could be looked at as offensive. And today, it probably would be considered offensive to some. I personally, I enjoyed Tropic Thunder. I thought it was hilarious. But I mean, you can trace this all the way back to like C. Thomas Howell and Soul Man. Go look that one up. Huh? There's a movie in the 1960s called Black Like Me, where a guy clearly has black paint all over his body and face instead of just giving the role to a black man. Huh? Go look up the old Othello. For those of you who don't know, Othello is a Shakespeare play about a black man. Go look up some of the old Othello movies and you will see white actors in blackface. Those movies don't get boycotted. They don't get banned. You see the difference here? You see what I'm putting on display? This is my favorite. You got Yul Brynner as the Pharaoh. Excuse me. You got Charlton Heston as Moses in Ancient Egypt, and Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments. Neither one of these guys are even close to being African, let alone Egyptian. But you know what's funny? There is a scene at the beginning of the movie where they're celebrating and the Ethiopians come to the celebration. It's quick. But guess what? The Ethiopians are black. Now here's a little homework assignment. Get a map of Africa and see the proximity of Ethiopia to Egypt. And then ask yourself, how could one group of people be black and the other group of people be white when they are so close in proximity? Ask yourself, does that make sense logically? So again, what I'm trying to show is there are many examples, too many for me to even put on this video, of white people portraying characters that are not white. And I didn't mention Cleopatra for a reason. As much as people want to, I shouldn't say want, but I'll just state it. Even though it's not proven, I personally don't think that Cleopatra was black. If you do the research, and I mean, it's her identity is still sort of ambiguous because there's her father was definitely Greek, and her mother, they really like don't know, or at least they won't say. So let's just say we can't prove that Cleopatra was black. So that's why I did not include Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra, or Gal Gadot for that matter, when that movie comes out. So I'm gonna just say this. For all of you people with the white fragility, knock it off. All right? It's not that serious. Stop trying to make controversy when there is none. Because you're just being hypocrites. All right? Unless you're going to go back and gripe and moan about all of these movies that I just talked about in this video, and many others, then you're just a hypocrite. Point blank, period, end of story. So I'm going to leave it there for now. If you like the way I think, hop over to Patreon, check out some of my original short stories. It's only $1.50 per download. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss out on our future videos. And like always, I thank you for your time. Peace.